Alright, we're gonna start recording, and alright, sounds good. Got everything running. Today we're just gonna go over some stuff with the Astro Delphis, some new changes that happened 6:15 in the evening. Not an actual time, but that's the date, month date. So June 16th is the day today, and we're gonna go over some stuff. We've got some dinos in here. The one on the left has a maxed out saddle for uh, some servers, and the one on the right has nothing. If I run up to them, I mean, they're on passive, but if I take a bite out of them, you can see that we're doing about 50 damage. This thing has 1040. So the bite on this one, we got about almost 600 melee, 100%. No imprint on this dolphin. This is just the base. Next thing, we're biting this. So the bite doesn't seem to be doing that much damage anymore. The next thing we're going to test is the damage that we're doing this stuff. Okay. Now these are stegos, so we've got to keep that in mind. It looks to be the same as a bite damage it was thrown into. That one did a little bit more, but it's not as much for blowing up something else. And we're going to lock on. Does some bigger damage. Doesn't seem to be super high. And that's a max saddle, which means that's damage to like something like a shadow main. The next thing we're going to look at is things like the bomb that we have. So we're just going to... Does good damage. It hit one, but did it hit the other one? Nope. So, could be worth doing. I feel like it's going to be on the same damage as a Tropio now. It's not doing the same crazy damage, but you can still do this. Just something without a saddle. So, the lock-ons are still pretty fast. You can still do dodges. You can still do these roll things in the air. And you can still do this from pretty far away. Now mind you, that was like maybe 300 damage on a maxed out saddle. They don't damage riders anymore. But if I can fire something into water, let's go find a wild stego for comparison. So it's not doing as much damage. I mean, sure, that was like another 100 damage. The damage on these things is way less than 200. I'm pretty sure that you could ramp up the melee on these things. So if we decided we wanted to ramp up the melee on these things, now granted, this is on a server where I'm just putting points into stuff, show you percentage. Percentage doesn't change if it's on another server. The level ups here are boosted. Do not consider this. They're way different on other official servers versus other unofficial servers. On here, they're just boosted, so I can show you the difference between 500 and 800. So I'm going to run up here. We did about 50 damage again. One of them on the bite. About 70. That's an overall 30% increase, which is actually, what we're aiming at. It's not having a flat scale, it's having an actual percentage scale. The other thing is that we're going to... That's 50 damage. The melee damage still scales with it. So we're looking at, a 70 damage smack now instead of a 50 damage smack, which is about a 30% increase. Almost. The factoring scaling on melee got reduced. And if I want to do this, even with that, it's still not going out of the ballpark in huge amounts of damage with the melee scale. It's actually a normalized dino now. The next thing, we can go back to here and we can say, oh, well, we want to just... We can still, like, fight flyers. I mean, this thing's going to be, like... Trying to get a hold of this thing in the air is still not going to be an easy thing. Now we're going to grab the damage buff and come back down here. We have about a minute of damage buff. So damage buff doesn't seem to be like it scaled that hard. You can still kind of see that that was with no armor over here. And it does, you know, a good 200% more melee damage on top of whatever this thing is. So it's a, you know, a 20% damage bump for damage. It does seem like it's actually punching through more armor with the damage buff still active. But that's still not, in comparison, it's what, 719 to 585. Uh, 7195. So we're going from 70 damage to 134. So it's actually able to punch through the armor value still in comparison. So we had what? 70 damage, then we bumped it up with the other one, the damage. So yeah, it's still punching through a tiny bit, but not by much. So the armor is probably going through maybe 10% of the armor. It might be a flat amount, more like. So if it's a flat amount, it's going to be like at least 20 armor. If not, it's just a 10%. No, what would it be? 15%? No, 15 or 20, yeah. 15 or 10%. At that point, it's going to be, you know, these things are now going to be not as crazy in combat. Sure, you've got like this whole the roll dodge, and you've got this stuff that they can fly around with, and they're pretty fast now. I would say that they're probably a little bit faster than a tech suit right now to jump around. They can boost. They're still using up quite a bit of element to run around and do stuff. But the way the servers are mostly, your element's kind of free at this point. So I wouldn't try to worry about them so much. They can't blast riders off the dinos anymore. They can still lock on target. They can still they can still laser beam stuff down. So any flyer that's out there is going to get hit pretty quick. Melee damage still does scale the blast. Not as hard anymore though, which means hitting the cap on stuff is going to be harder. And they can no longer damage a structure. So that blast can no longer damage structure. This can no longer damage, but this one can. So, and that will dumbfire will get shot by turrets. This one just doesn't do any damage to structures anymore. So, I would say that the only thing to watch out for is the damage buff that happens on the dolphins, on high damage dolphins, and unarmored saddles and low hit point creatures. At that point, most other dinos are still going to be able to compare with these things. Lightning wyverns are still going to breath attack one of these things like a, you know, in one hit, come in, swoop. So, base dolphins, my opinion, they got fixed on the problems that they had. Let me know what you guys think of though. Did they get fixed? Did they have still problems? Do we need to test something else? And we'll see you guys online.